I've got a question for you this morning. Are you content? Are you content in your life right now? Some people might even ask, what does that even mean? Is it even possible to find true contentment? I read a story about an individual who was very successful in business, a man who had made lots of money for himself and said that one thing: he never truly felt content because there was always more to make, more money to make, more things to conquer. But I love the way Patrick Morley is a pastor and author, and he writes in his book, A Reason to Get Out of Bed, he writes, when you're content, you find satisfaction in the now rather than pining for the next. It's an inward, peaceful spirit that empowers you to experience joy in the present moment and trusting God's provision while accepting bad times as well as good times. Love that definition. Such a great way to think of it. So when I say content, it's that idea. I'm not waiting for the next thing to happen. I'm good with what's happening right now, either good or bad. And I'm trusting that it is God's timing and God's providence that leading everything through my life as it should be going. The Apostle Paul said he knew the secret of contentment. It's in Philippians chapter 4, 11 and 12. He says, I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstance I find myself. I know how to make do with little. I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content, whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. It's an important idea. Paul's definition in the same way, recognizing that God is in control. God's got it all in the palm of his hands, and it doesn't matter if he's in a good situation or a bad situation. He has learned to be content. By the way, it's important to note the Apostle Paul is writing this from a Roman prison. This is one of the prison epistles, Philippians. In fact, it's so ironic, probably Philippians, one of his most encouraging letters, but it's written while he was in a prison. And if you think about those times and how Roman prisons were, most likely in the basement or of a building of some type, and sometimes the basement of a basement. It depends on exactly which prison he was locked up in, but in many cases wouldn't see the light of day, wouldn't be allowed visitors, wouldn't have, like we think about in our modern prisons, have time for exercise and things like that. He would have been chained downstairs in a building, often while the things from the upper part of the building would drip down into the lower part of the building. Not a great place to say that you feel content, because it would have been really easy for him to say life is just so bad right now and what am I going to do, and pining for the things, and God has abandoned me because I'm in the prison. That's kind of the way we think at times, isn't it? But not Paul. He says he has learned to be content. And in fact, he uses that phrase, I've learned the secret of being content, whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. So what's the secret? The secret is the very next line, Philippians 4:13, and you may know this one. This may be one you have memorized. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Now you go, wait a minute, hold on. That's the secret to being content? Because we hear that word, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And, athletes often have that tattooed on their bodies or written down somewhere. But it's not about that kind of strength. It's about the kind of strength that it takes to be in a Roman prison, to be in the worst possible situation, and still feel content. Remember that definition, satisfaction in the now and not pining for the next. And you can only do that. I think you can only truly do that when Christ gives you the strength. When Christ, you can't do it on your own. It has to come with him. So just thinking about that question I asked in the beginning, are you content? If this morning you would say no, then I'll ask you that one. Where are you with Christ? Is he strengthening you? Is he speaking into your life? Or is Christ just sort of off to one side? Because I'm certain you're not going to feel contentment if Christ is just sort of the extra baggage you have in your life. But if Christ is the center of your life, then you're going to receive that strength that comes from him. The good news is to move Christ from the side to the front of your life. It's as simple as a prayer. Just asking him. And it's those words that he become the Lord of your life. Not merely an addition, but he's the one that's in control. Now, when you say that, and I know people have problems with control, and putting God in control sounds like a very difficult thing to do. And it sounds like, well, how am I going to find true contentment if I'm giving control to him and I no longer have control? Again, that's where surrender comes in. That's where we recognize it's out of my hands, it's in his hands. Let me read the passage again. Now, by the way, it starts out, I don't say this out of need. The Apostle Paul was thanking the church in Philippi for the gifts that they had given him. We assume monetary gifts of some kind. But he says, I don't say this because I'm in need right now. Now remember, he's in prison. He has a lot of needs, but there's something going on in his heart. I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know how to make do with a little. I know how to make do with a lot. So this is the good times and the bad times. We feel like we could only be content if we have a lot. If I would hit the lottery, then I'd be content. That's not what Paul says. Content in any and every situation, whether I have a lot, whether I have a little. And it says, I've learned that secret. And it is that simple phrase, I'm able to do all things through him who strengthens me. So if I have a lot, how can I manage all of my assets? How can that successful businessman free himself from that constant desire for the next big thing, the next deal, the next profit that's going to come in? Because Christ is going to give us strength. How can I handle it if I'm in the worst possible situation of my life? I'm at the lowest point of my life. I can do it because I've got Christ in the driver's seat, and he's the one who gives me strength. Just want to encourage you with that today. And I know we're probably all in there somewhere. Today, maybe we are content. Maybe we're doing well. Maybe we feel good. Or maybe not. Maybe we're in that lowest place. Maybe we're not in a Roman prison, but we're in a place where we don't feel content. So what the secret is, allow God to lead your life and give you the strength that you need to do what you need to do.